Stephanie Do Rozario is the image of a happy, healthy and successful 24-year-old. Having already made a name for herself as a designer and photographer on the Queensland art scene, she's now set her sights on the national stage, helping sufferers of mental illness. But what most people didn't realise was that she is one of them.
So I have OCD, which is the one where you turn light switches and taps on and off again. But what people sometimes don't realise is that it's so much more than that. For me, the OCD probably came about as a result of me being an anxious child and wanting to be a goody two-shoes all the time and do everything down, to the T.
And when you look at a lot of elite athletes, for instance, quite a few of them have superstitions and rituals that could be called OCD.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So is there a very fine line that you tread between good obsessiveness and when it's negative?
That's actually really interesting. I think yes. There is an incredibly fine paper thin line, and I think everyone crosses it to sometimes. When I'm talking about my own experience now, people do say to me, I do go back and check my car door 10 times before I feel comfortable, and then it's sort of like a knowing smile and a nod. Generally it's because I think if I can do this, then everything will be better. I'll achieve clarity, in my brain, I suppose. But the irony is that you do them and then you achieve some sense of relief for maybe, a couple of seconds, and then that thought comes back again. Did I do that properly? Did I execute it, to the best of my ability? And so then you will go and you will do that again and then again, and so it's a vicious cycle. It actually makes things worse, and I find that I'm open to other things sort of going on, like episodes where I'm a little bit more depressed at times when I feel like I need to regain control of something, and so that might be in what I'm eating or regulating the times that I eat. It's really just been about gaining a sense of security in the chaos that's sort of my brain that goes 10 to the dozen. I remember my first obsessive compulsive thought, but I actually think if I think about it a lot, I used to play with money with my sister when we were little, and Dad used to always make us wash our hands after we touched the money before we'd have something to eat. And it was really lovely. He would come with his hands, and he's got piano hands, and I had these little 4-year-old, 5-year-old hands, and he would wash his hands over the top of mine, and so we'd wash them together. And so I suppose I got this really happy feeling from that, and the security that it was a good thing to do, to wash my hands. It was probably when I was 8. I was at my grandparents' place, and they have this coral sculpture with these ceramic fish in it, and I prodded the coral, and the coral sort of disintegrated on my fingers, and I looked at it and went, oh my goodness, if I don't get this off I'm going to die. And that's a pretty powerful thought to have for an 8-year-old. And then I went and quickly washed my hands, and then I went back and I washed them again, and walked away, and I went, I better just wash it one more time. From the taps and the light switches, I started to also do these thought processes where I would think something maybe that I had thought, gee, I don't think that's quite right, or is that an okay thought to have? And then I'd sort of box myself away for an hour and try and sort through that, pull it apart like an engine, and then go, oh yeah, no, it does fit, it's okay, I am normal after all. If I had a thought that I deemed inappropriate, and had to sort of go through a repetitive process to make sure that it was okay and that I wasn't a bad person. You're packing up your brain and you're taking it wherever you go. So it was almost as though in discovering that, it was like, oh my God, this thing comes with me wherever I go, and I'm not safe from it anywhere. And that was really scary. There was a time that I was so anxious and so caught up in these rituals and trying to filter through these thoughts that I stopped eating. And wanting to connect with people, because I just had to work this out first. When I was 15, I went to see the psychiatrist for the first time, and I was sprung. Mum came out into the kitchen at the sound of the tap turning on and off and on and off and on and off again, and she came out, she said, what are you doing? And at that moment I was afraid, because I could read the look of terror on her face. Mum works at the Royal Children's Hospital School, so she works frequently with children that have mental health issues and OCD actually. I finished up with my psychologist, I was sort of 23, so about 8 years for me to realise that that I could look for inspiration in other things that would also help me and not just rely on the medication and the doctor's appointments. I needed to look to other things in my life that could provide me with hope and ways to dig myself out. I've never actually felt completely in control. It's sort of like a shadow that follows me around, and because it's so close to me, like it spawns from the thought processes that happen inside my head. I feel like I'm not ever really protected from it because there is no shield that I can put up if it's already on the inside. It was always something that I felt was a weakness, and you know, I always thought I was weird that I had to do these things, and disappointed in myself. So yeah, it does feel like you lead a double life, and some people, your closest friends, do know what's sort of going on, and I realised that they were the people that were helping me the most, and so had this sort of epiphany as a result of a moment in the life of my family where my sister became quite ill. I was so busy dealing with my own issues that I failed to see my little sister slip under. The reason that Mind the Gap came about was because I, for the first time, took a step back and could see what effect that was having on my family and what effect it would have had when I was suffering with that mental illness. And I mean, I still am, but I realised that by talking to my family about it and even widening the circle of people that knew actually provided me with more support, and the framework grew bigger and bigger. So I wanted to create a project to recognise the carers, the family and the friends, because even I as a sufferer didn't really even think about what it was doing to my mum and dad or my sister, how they were having to question their identity as parents. Am I educated to deal with this? Do I come in as the best friend? Am I authoritative in my approach? And questioning your own identity is a pretty tough thing to do. Now, having seen my sister go through her period of her downtime, I've been able to sort of sit on the other side of the fence and see sort of what happens behind the lines, and that is that my parents are sort of talking to each other. How can we relieve this sort of pain from our daughter? And because you don't often have the answer, it's a really difficult kind of thing that you can't, it's not something that you can solve or package or label and say this is completed and put it up on the shelf. And so it's this constant thing where you're trying to, just try things out, see how it works, and so it's an ongoing process, I suppose. And I guess these days we're also wired to want to do a task and complete it and cross it off our list, that it's difficult for us to have something that's unsolved. Because I am a non-dancer, when I started going to dance performances, I was disengaged because it wasn't a language that I understood very well. One of the things that I said to the team when we came together was that I want everybody to be engaged with it, non-dancers, dancers alike, and the way that we do that is by starting off with movements that are outside the dance vocabulary. We do a lot of improvisation in studio, and so we're creating these new movements that are perhaps a little bit less dance-like, so that we don't cause non-dancers to switch off in the process. I realised that the communication of the body without dialogue is something that can be so raw and honest and real, and that for me was the most accurate representation of what I was dealing with, and I didn't want there to be words to cloud people's perception of what it was. I've come to terms that I will always have obsessive compulsive tendencies because that's just the way that I'm wired. So I guess it's disappointing, but I also find it uplifting because I am working on a project now where this whole thing wouldn't have happened had it not been for my OCD. And so something that I thought was such an awful thing to have to carry around with me all the time has informed me in a way that I can help so many other people. It just makes my heart soar when people when people come to me and they say, thank you for what you're doing, it's such an important project,